In this lesson, we're going to learn how to remove blemishes within Lightroom Classic CC. So here I have this photo of Will, beautiful shot, nice shallow depth of field. If I zoom in here, Will, I'm not sure if this is a mole or a pimple that's growing. And again, I usually try to leave any sort of blemish. I don't do a lot of retouching, but I want to show you how to do it if you want. And this is the perfect example. So see this tool right here next to the crop button? Just click that, and that's our sort of blemish removal. If you hover over your image, you'll see sort of two circles. One is the main selection, and then it feathers out the edge. So if you see here, we can change the size. It's a little bit hard to see. Let me make it super big. And then the feathering will make the feathering bigger or smaller and have a harder edge. I like to increase the feathering quite a bit. And then you could also adjust the opacity of this brush, which will basically adjust the strength, but try leaving it at 100. You also have two different types of brushes, heel and clone. We're using the heel brush, which is what I would suggest for removing things like pimples or blemishes. I'll show you a good example of using the clone in just a second. So if you find the blemish that you want to get rid of, just click on it or click and drag over it, and then you'll see that Lightroom automatically tries to get rid of it. And what it does is it tries to take another part of the image that's similar in terms of color and exposure and blend it with the part that you tried to get rid of. And you can see that this second circle appears, and that's the circle that it's taking from. And if we click done so that we can see it without the circles, you can see that it looks pretty good. I mean, it's basically gone away. Before, after, before, after. This does have a white balance adjustment, so you're seeing that, but that little pimple or whatever it is goes away. Let's go back to our brush, and to go back to that adjustment we made, you'll see this little dot where we created it. Click on that one to edit that part. Or if you want, you can click anywhere else to create a new adjustment. But say it doesn't work properly, and say it's pulling information from a part of the image that's not good for blending. What if I put this over here, and I can do so just by clicking and dragging? Look at what's happening. I'm telling Lightroom that I want to replace this part that I clicked with this part of Will's eyebrow. Well, obviously that doesn't look that good. So you want to make sure that you're putting this circle somewhere near that looks similar to the spot that you want to remove. And so you might have to make some subtle adjustments after the fact. Usually Lightroom is pretty darn good at this. Here's a good image, actually, just speaking of chromatic aberration. In the past couple lessons, or 2 lessons ago, I think, if we click on this, the automatic one doesn't work that well. But if we go to manual, see this green edge? If we take our color dropper and we find it, you've got to be particular about it. Sometimes if you don't get the green perfectly, it's going to say, oh, we can't use that. So wait till the eyedropper shows green. Trying to find the exact spot. It's got to be, yeah, there we go. So with that one, we can get rid of that sort of green chromatic aberration. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yep, there we go. So that's getting rid of that aberration. Anyway, sorry, that was sort of a distraction. I apologize. I try not to do that. So let's go back to our blemish brush, and I'll just show you one more time what this can do. Just click there. It takes the information from over here. We might want to move it to just above here, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's zoom out, and I'm just zooming out and in by pressing the Z key on my keyboard. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Let's go to another picture. Let's go to this photo of our night sky. Say we want to add more stars to the sky. We can actually use that brush to clone things rather than to remove things. So if we left this on heel and we clicked on these stars, it would get rid of it. But we don't want to do that. We want to add more stars. So let's click the clone brush, zoom in so we can see a little bit better. And then I'm just holding the space bar down and clicking and dragging with the move tool to be able to do that. The way that you use the clone brush is a little bit opposite. So first you want to click where you want the cloned object to eventually appear. So let's click somewhere where there aren't any stars, here for example. And then it's going to pop up with the circle saying that we're going to copy this circle to that place where you just clicked. So if I drag this over to this star, then it adds it there. If I drop the opacity, you'll kind of see what happens. It gets rid of that star that we copied. It makes it less opaque. So typically if you want an exact clone, you'll keep this at 100. If you want it to be sort of subtly faded out, then maybe you would decrease that. Say you want to increase the size of your brush and move on to do another cloning. If I increase the size of the brush right now, I still have that old clone sort of selected. So what you have to do is actually click and then adjust the size, and that will allow you to adjust the size of the new cloning. So now let's take this over here, and after it does its magic, it copies these stars over here to this circle. The clone tool you could use similar to the brush tool, healing brush tool, to remove blemishes. Let me show you. If I zoom in here to Will's face back on this image, let's go back to our brush. Let's select this one and delete it by selecting it and then pressing the delete key. If we use the clone tool the same way, let's make it a little bit smaller, click here. It's doing an exact sort of copy. It's not blending in at all. So the healing brush is better because it sort of intelligently blends in whatever your selection is with the place you're trying to heal. But the clone, it's just a direct copy. So let's actually go down to Will's eyes. And again, actually, let's delete this one. So just press the delete key. Click his eye. Actually, no, if we want to duplicate his eye, we'll click here in his forehead and then drag to his eye. And that one looks pretty good. And so that's an exact copy of his eye. And that's different than the healing brush, which would be more out of a blended in image, trying to heal it basically. So the clone tool is a little different than the healing brush because it's a direct copy. It's not trying to blend in and heal it naturally to remove things like blemishes. If you have any questions about these tools, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in another lesson.